Quaker Oats has had people starting their day right for nearly 150 years, so maybe it's no surprise that the company sometimes finds itself in hot water. The most recent food recall for Quaker Oats was actually a three-parter. The discovery of a potential risk from salmonella contamination prompted a recall in December 2023, involving about 40 granola-based products, including Chewy bars and some cereals. Products were distributed not just to all 50 U.S. states, but to Puerto Rico, Guam, and Saipan as well. The recall scope then expanded significantly in January 2024, to include nearly 24 other products, including more granola bars, some cereals, cereal bars, a protein bar, and a snack mix. Later that month, Quaker Oats added one more granola bar to the list. Such a widespread recall ended up causing significant repercussions for Quaker Oats. First, the company's operating profits dropped, while certain expenses rose amid efforts to bounce back from the situation. In April, Quaker Oats confirmed that it would close the Illinois-based plant that was purported to be the source of the salmonella contamination. That plant had operated for about 65 years and employed more than 500 people. For what it's worth, there have been no reported illnesses resulting from salmonella in a Quaker Oats product, suggesting that the recall successfully mitigated any potential harm. In early 2021, Quaker Oats initiated a recall of a specific flavor of its Rice Crisps, bite-sized rice cakes that serve as an alternative to potato chips. As it turned out, the company determined that snack-sized bags of its sweet barbecue Rice Crisps may have contained soy ingredients, which the packaging failed to mention. Since undisclosed soy might pose a risk for customers with soy allergies or sensitivities, Quaker Oats decided to institute a voluntary recall of the product. This was not an altogether surprising decision, given that items with undeclared allergens account for some of the foods most likely to be recalled. Of course, in these sorts of cases, the product remains safe for anyone who isn't allergic to the offending ingredient, but the risk that it might unexpectedly trigger an allergy is enough to necessitate a recall. The distribution area for the recall covered 21 states and involved 4,550 bags of sweet barbecue Rice Crisps. It's unknown whether it was an error in production, a packaging gaffe, or a change in the product's recipe that led to the recall. No illnesses were reported. The 2023 to 2024 product recall wasn't the first time Quaker Oats has had to take action due to the risk of salmonella. Another instance occurred in 2018 when the company instituted a recall of the peanut butter crunch flavor of its signature Cap'n Crunch cereal. While this recall affected only 5 stores in 3 states, the severity of the risk necessitated a recall all the same. People exposed to the salmonella bacteria can become ill and develop stomach cramps, diarrhea, and fever. Certain populations such as young children, people over age 65, and those with other health issues may be at greater risk of more severe illness.
Horrifying, isn't it?
In total, the 2018 recall affected Target stores in Omaha and Lincoln, Nebraska, and Wichita, Kansas, as well as P-Fresh stores in St. Louis and Blue Springs in Missouri. Luckily, only 21 boxes of peanut butter crunch Cap'n Crunch cereal produced during a specific period of time were determined to be at risk of carrying salmonella. Quaker Oats was able to isolate the salmonella danger to that particular batch of cereal, thanks to a sample taken at some point during the production process. This kind of sampling occurs regularly and is presumably how the company has been able to catch potential contamination risks in other cases. Thankfully, no illnesses were reported as a result of this scare. In 2016, Quaker Oats recalled 2 quinoa-based flavors of its granola bars over concerns that they might have carried listeria. That possible contamination was traced back to a company that supplied Quaker Oats with certain ingredients. It had apparently distributed sunflower kernels that could have potentially carried the bacteria. When Quaker Oats found out about the listeria risk, the company was able to withhold a significant number of the affected granola bar boxes from circulation. Nevertheless, a small quantity of chocolate nut medley and yogurt, fruit and nut flavors of the Quaker quinoa granola bars were implicated. Since boxes of both relevant flavors were distributed nationwide, the recall had no geographic limit. Listeria infections mostly cause intestinal symptoms, but it can be fatal in certain individuals if the bacteria spreads to other areas of the body. So even if the volume of product posing a danger was limited, the danger wasn't insignificant. Ultimately, the recall came and went without any customers reporting any illnesses. Around September 2011, a recall was issued for 8-count boxes of Quaker Chewy Smash Bar graham pretzel bars. While the company didn't provide a specific number of affected boxes, those with 13 distinct best before dates were implicated. The source of the problem? Everyone's favorite dairy product.
Got milk.
It seems that Quaker Oats had failed to include the text "may contain milk" on the product's packaging. Further necessitating the recall was a reported case of an adverse reaction from a customer with a milk allergy, who promptly underwent treatment for their allergic reaction. It's worth noting, however, that such disclaimers are voluntary, usually indicating a risk of allergens, rather than a guarantee that the product will contain the listed allergen. In 2003, Quaker Oats decided to recall 16-ounce boxes of brown sugar Bliss oatmeal, a flavor the company produced at the time. This came down to a failure to declare that the product may have contained almonds as an ingredient. Since this flavor is no longer in production, it's unclear whether almonds were an intended ingredient lacking representation on the oatmeal's packaging, or whether they were mistakenly added to this particular oatmeal product's recipe. The affected boxes of brown sugar Bliss oatmeal were all produced at one plant in Sparks, Nevada, so it's also possible that equipment used in this oatmeal flavor came in contact with another product that contained almonds. The recall covered about 23,000 cases of that oatmeal flavor distributed across the country, with best before dates limited to 3 days in September. Customers were encouraged to throw away the affected products and apply for a refund. Almonds are one of several varieties of tree nuts that can cause allergic reactions in some people. While different from peanut allergies, tree nut allergies can also cause severe symptoms. Anywhere from 70% to 90% of anaphylactic deaths involve a reaction to either peanuts or tree nuts, according to a 2018 review in the Journal of Asthma and Allergy. The first time Quaker Oats instituted a product recall over the risk of salmonella was in 2008. In this case, it was 3 pancake and waffle mix products from its Aunt Jemima brand that were determined to potentially carry the bacteria. Included in the recall were Original Complete, and Buttermilk Complete flavors of the pancake and waffle mix, sold in both 2-pound and 5-pound quantities.
This has more buttermilk than any other mix. Any other.
As has been the case with similar product recalls, not every box of the 3 types of pancake mixes were found to be at risk, but boxes produced during a certain period of time. Customers could determine whether a product fell within the purview of the recall based on its best before date. Quaker Oats had already pulled a majority of the affected pancake mix boxes from circulation at the factory before they hit store shelves. The company estimated that roughly 1,000 affected boxes had nevertheless been distributed to stores in 17 states, prompting the official recall.
You can't deny it's a great pancake.
That said, a statement the company published on its website at the time said the risk was limited to consuming the pancake mix raw, or after cooking it for less than the recommended amount of time. Quaker Oats' recall of brown sugar Bliss oatmeal marked the company's second recall over an allergen risk in 2 years. In 2002, another recall had involved apple cinnamon Quakes, a crispy rice-based snack product that is no longer in production. The company estimated that there were only about 50 to 100 cases of Quakes in circulation that needed to be recalled. At fault was the presence of a dairy product in the snack's flavoring component that somehow made its way into the batch without proper labeling, though nobody reported any kind of allergic reaction as a result. Given the small size of the batch, which was identifiable by a single best before date, the error seems to have been the actual presence of dairy in those Quakes, rather than an issue with the packaging. In addition to encouraging consumers to return bags of Quakes implicated in the recall, Quaker Oats urged stores to take the bags in question off of shelves. Many of the older recalls issued by Quaker Oats were of a markedly different nature than scares over allergens or bacterial contamination. In 1993, Quaker Oats had to recall boxes of 3 different types of Cap'n Crunch cereal after a toy injured multiple children. The 3 cereals in question were Cap'n Crunch, Crunch Berries, and Peanut Butter Crunch. The offending toy, included in about 8.3 million cereal boxes distributed nationwide, was a sort of hollowed-out half-sphere made of rubber called a popper. Used as intended, kids could invert the piece of rubber and place it on a hard surface. After a few seconds, it would snap back into its original shape, propelling itself into the air. However, some children opted to press the toy onto their faces or their eyes rather than a flat surface. Reported injuries ranged from bruises to bloodshot eyes.
Oh, won't somebody please think of the children?
In total, 36 kids were injured before the cereal company issued a recall for cereal boxes that contained it. Meanwhile, parents who had already purchased boxes of cereal containing the toy were urged to throw the toy away. The company added that the cereal itself was still safe to eat. The jumping rubber toy wasn't Quaker Oats' only recall in 1993. About a month and a half prior, Quaker Oats recalled a batch of chocolate chip chewy granola bars. Rather than undeclared allergens or potentially harmful bacteria, the impetus for the decision was the possibility that the batch of granola bars at issue might have contained pieces of metal. The source of the metal was not specified, but the danger posed by unexpected metal particulates in a food product was clear. In total, the recall scope covered 1,600 cases of chocolate chip chewy bars, which had been sent to stores in California, Massachusetts, Connecticut, New York, New Jersey, and Rhode Island. At the time Quaker Oats issued this recall, the company claimed that the boxes of granola bars in question were likely not yet stocked on store shelves. It's possible then that some of the stores that received boxes of the recalled product were able to return them before customers could get their hands on them. There had been no customer complaints as of the time the recall was announced. What appears to have been the earliest Quaker Oats food recall based on present-day public records was an instance in which the company recalled cans of beans and chili produced by then subsidiary Stokely Van Camp Incorporated. In total, 11 products under both the Van Camp's and Wolf labels were subject to the nationwide recall, ranging from the Van Camp's signature pork and beans product to Wolf brand chili with beans. The issue with these batches of canned beans and chili was an error made at some point during processing, which was normally intended to prevent food spoilage in the relevant products. Due to insufficient exposure to heat, those cans of beans were more likely to swell and develop harmful bacteria. The problem was discovered during a routine check at a manufacturing plant in Dallas. Customers at the time could identify whether or not a can of beans was a part of one of the relevant batches, based on an alphanumeric product code. The company decided to take action before any illnesses were reported, and it seems that ultimately, none came about as a result. Van Camp beans and Wolf brand chili remain in production to this day, but neither brand is currently owned by the Quaker Oats company.